Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. In this video we're going to be taking another look at Vechain after a significant pullback today. What does this mean and what lies ahead for Vechain? Guys, as we get into the video, if you find it useful and informative, do hit the like button. Really do appreciate that. Helps push the content out to like-minded individuals. And of course, if you are new, do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that is going on with Vechain. Right, with all that out of the way, let's dive into some analysis here for Vechain and take a look at what is going on, most recently with the VET token. So here, this is Vechain paired with the USDT. This is the weekly chart, and Binance is our data source. If you want to replicate anything, those are the metrics you want to be using, and we are using TradingView for the analysis. Now on here we have got the 5 impulse waves to the upside, Elliott theory. Obviously this really started off nice and strong back in March of 2020, and basically the top of wave 3, which March 2021, that equated to 18,295% in cheeky gains, which is fantastic. Now, the fourth wave correction took many by surprise, but again was a relatively steep, yet still expected correction, because nothing moves up in straight lines. You do have to have nice corrections, and that's exactly what you saw here. Another fantastic opportunity to purchase up some decent volumes of Vechain ahead of the fifth wave. Now, like I said before, we do not move up in straight lines, and there are waves within waves, and a clear example of this is basically during the third wave, which is the significant all-time high. We can see that there are red weeks, right? And this is to be a bit of a given, right? Because we are expecting red times to kind of come in, and this is a nice healthy correction that allows us then to continue the growth to the upside. When the bear market comes, we will be obviously communicating that out, and obviously the expectations will be to obviously pull back down significantly. And for those who are interested in knowing how far we are going to pull back and where things are likely to go after we've actually had the bear market, I did do a 2025 price prediction for Vechain, so do check that one out. Right, the other thing that's really notable here on the weekly chart is of course the stochastic relative strength index. No longer are we oversold like we were at the bottom of wave 4, but instead we have actually started to push back up. Now this is a pretty decent position of 56 on the weekly chart, and 34 retrospectively on the fast and slow lines. Now ultimately with this stochastic, we will look for kind of small time corrections like this here, for example, which allow us to kind of just small pull back before we go up into the overbought area. And this is where we'll spend a lot of time being in the overbought area as we were up here, right? And again, we can also drop out momentum, right? Not a lot of price damage was done at this point during the third wave, right? And basically we're pushing the price up still, but there was loss of momentum for a couple of weeks, a couple of dojo candles just here. And even at this point here, right, we're moving from overbought, pulling down and then pushing back up again. And this is something that we'll also look for during this fifth wave as we push up towards that dollar level with Vechain here. So significant gains are going to be on the horizon. So I won't talk any more about the weekly chart, but it's always important that for investors that are thinking long-term, thinking the entire bull run, maybe you're even thinking 2025, 2030, it's important that you do zoom out. Don't be focusing down on those daily views, those hourly views, 15-minute views or whatever, right? It's important that we do zoom out to the weeklies and the monthlies so we understand exactly what's going on for the longer term. Now, when we actually pull this down into our daily view, this is where things start to get quite interesting, right? Because here we can see the fourth wave correction. We can see it bottomed out down here, and that's where the Fibonacci retracement tool starts from the all-time high, goes down to the low from the fourth wave. This projects out $1.01, right? So I know loads of people say these are like moon boy predictions, moonshot predictions, or whatever, right? But I'd like to just reiterate, this is not my prediction. This is the price prediction as per the Fibonacci retracement tools and the extension of the 4.236. Okay, and so these are just technical tools that are used within traders, and this is why lots of these areas on the Fibonacci retracement tool themselves actually resonate quite a lot. Right, you see lots of resistance around these specific points in time. You find these as good kind of support lines as well, and this is because people are trading the Fibonacci levels. Okay, so when we talk about pushing up to this is an area that many people are going to be expecting, specifically traders, institutions, anyone who's trading Vechain at a professional level will be looking at the Fibonacci retracement tools along with other technical indicators, and they'll be looking at that $1 level. So I wouldn't be calling it a moonshot. I think that's quite realistic week. And again, I will reiterate what I think so many people get confused about, and that is that market capitalization does not equal value. It only equals price. The market capitalization is only a simple calculation of the last sold price multiplied by the circulating supply. That is not a representation of the value. It is not a representation of the amount of money in a project. Okay, this is something that trips a lot of people up because it's not like the stock market. Okay, so it's a very, very basic calculation and it will mislead you. So understand what market capitalization is. If you are not so sure, do some research on it, because it is not going to be a barrier to VeChain getting to $1. Okay, right. So the other things that are really interesting about this daily chart is, of course, the stochastic, right? So as we said, we are approaching a pretty decent level on the weekly chart from a stochastic point of view. On this daily chart, we've been talking about it for a while. We were overbought and we were waiting for that correction. We have had the correction. We can go down a little bit more, not too much more. So I reckon that probably in the next couple of days, we're going to see another significant move for VeChain back to the upside. Okay, as we're now oversold with VeChain. A little bit lower to go here at 15.2. It's barely oversold. We can, of course, drop down a little bit lower. A good expectation will probably be to bring it down towards that kind of 2 or 5. Yeah, put somewhere anywhere lower than 10. So we'll watch out for that level. Got another 10 points or so to drop there on the stochastic. In doing that, we'll then be in a very good position to see the daily chart start to rise up again, okay, from a stochastic point of view. So the correction looks like it's finally in, which means I'm very, very bullish on VeChain for next week. I think next week's going to be a pretty good week for VeChain, so do watch that space. It's looking pretty interesting. But obviously, we have to couple this with what's going on with the weekly. We know the weekly's had a bit of a red week. It's pulled back from where it was previously, so this is a good sign. But we obviously have to look at what else is going on, right? We obviously are in a bullish trend moving to the upside. But what does the hourly chart look like? And we'll get into that in a moment as well. So really good sign here with the daily chart being so oversold and is likely to continue to be a little bit oversold over the next maybe 24 hours, and then we will start to see a very good steady rise in value for VeChain. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the resistance of 13.9 cent is a very logical area here that we should be expecting to come in next week. And I'd like to think that if we have a good enough rally, we could potentially take out this area here, which would basically be the 50% retracement area of the Fibonacci. Now, this would be 16.6 cent. I think that's where we're going to find resistance, guys. I think that's going to be the step that we take up to here, back test maybe down to the 13.9 cent area. Okay, so this is going to be a key area of resistance. I think we have enough momentum on the daily chart to now allow us to push through this. Getting through that means that we'll go after the testing of 16.6 as the resistance. We'll find resistance and we'll pull back from there. Okay, that would be my expectation. But let's pull down onto the hourly, right? So here we can see a little bit more of the detail. And as we take a look at this, here we can see obviously a head and shoulder pattern that broke down past the neckline and then the break up, right? So basically we saw this area here from the head and shoulder, the breakdown past the neckline, failing to stay above it and being pulled down. Then we had the breakthrough here, finding this resistance up here at 13.2, breaking it briefly and getting pulled back down, really consolidating around this 13.2 cent area and pulling back down right now. Now, where we are right now at this particular point is a really good indicator because this is looking pretty interesting as a good support line for us. Previously, again, you can look back over here, it was a good area of support as well. So again, all the way from where we were forming the bottom of the left shoulder, just before we started the form of the head, and we can start to see that this is an interesting zone. Now, it's also backed up by that stochastic relative strength index that's also oversold at 9.9. So on the hourly chart, we should be starting to see some push back to the upside. Even by the time we actually put this video out, you should start to see VeChain actually moving up nicely now. So the first target obviously will be coming up towards this area here, which will be about 12.7 from the 12.4. And I think we should be able to push past that resistance pretty quickly and approach the 13.2. Now, the 13.2 is the major resistance for us. As you can see here, we've really consolidated past it for quite some time. But I think ultimately pushing past that, going after the 14.1, which obviously goes in line with our daily expectations as well later in the week. So everything for next week is looking very, very good for VeChain. Obviously, some interesting areas of resistance and support to be found on that journey. Nothing happens quickly, so obviously we do have to be quite patient with it. But everything is definitely lining up quite nicely here from a technical point of view. Obviously, we want to obviously couple this with the volume, make sure that we are losing momentum. That's exactly what we're seeing here as well, right? A loss of momentum in terms of the volume. So now we look to grow that volume as we grow the price, take out 13.2, move to 13.1, and again in line with our daily. And in line, of course, with those Fibonacci areas, right, as we talk about trying to really go and conquer 13.9 and move to 16.6. When we take a look at those on the hourly chart, obviously we're talking about going way up here and then finding and back testing on some strong support lines. So everything on VeChain is definitely looking pretty good on the short term, and definitely looking pretty good on the daily chart. And again, it's always important that we do zoom out and we really focus in on what our long-term aspirations are, where we think VeChain is going longer term, not just hourly or daily. And everything does seem to be resonating quite nicely with that dollar level for VeChain. So significant gains are still to be had as we close Q3, go into Q4, and maybe if the bull run does allow, it gets extended into 2022 for Q1. So again, we are talking, weeks that will turn into months before we see the end of this bull run. There will be pullbacks on the journey. People will be calling it bear traps and all sorts of various things like that. But at the moment, everything is playing out for the 5 impulse waves to the upside, and VeChain should hopefully peak out at about a dollar level by the end of the bull run. Guys, if you have found this brief VeChain update useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new, make sure you subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and you won't miss another cheeky update. Guys, with this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.